Hey, welcome back to the show. We're keeping it real, goes right. Welcome back to Real Take Sports Talk. Kind of. So, as I explained in a previous video, Real Take Sports Talk is turning 1 year old on the week of April 21st. And as a way to celebrate this, we are releasing previously unseen footage and episodes of our podcast back when we were audio only on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And I thought release them as we lead up to this date. We've got a bunch of stuff planned. We already released our first episode. Link for that is in the description below. But before we get to episode 2, I want to remind you guys to like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Enjoy the show.
Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the show where keeping it real goes right. Welcome to this special edition of Real Take Sports Talk, our post NFL draft edition. A belated happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I know a lot of moms out there love them some football, so we got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking everything from NFL to the NCAA, Major League Baseball, and we got to talk about that coronavirus. So it's me, Johnny G, here with Omer
Yo!
and Andrew.
Yo.
And boys, let's get right into it. All right. So, just 1 week ago, we had the NFL draft. Not a ton of surprises in the first round, not a bunch of huge trades. We did see our first big trade with the Los Angeles Chargers moving up to pick their quarterback, Justin Herbert. Biggest surprise of the NFL draft, what was it, Omer?
Biggest surprise of that night was honestly, I wasn't expecting Isaiah Simmons to fall the way he did. Isaiah Simmons to me was probably the second or third best player in this draft. And I thought there were teams like the Giants, even the Panthers that could have used someone like Isaiah Simmons to fortify their defense. But yeah, that was the biggest surprise for me. But before we actually get into talking about the draft, I was hoping we could talk about something real quick. Because I have something I need to get off my chest. Boys, I really want anyone in Bristol, Connecticut at ESPN, if you can hear me, if you can listen to the sound of my voice, I need you to hear me close right now. Trey Wingle's coverage of the 2020 NFL draft was awful. He fucking stunk, all right? Trey Wingle was garbage on the NFL draft that Thursday night. Let's not even talk about how he actually covered the draft, spitting all over the place. He was stuttering just like I did right there. But there's a few points that I'm going to point out right now. When referring to Joe Burrow at one point, he referred to him as Joe Cool, a name that is reserved for only two people in the NFL. One, future Hall of Famer and Baltimore Ravens quarterback Joe Flacco, and two, the great Joe Montana. Secondly, at some point he made a comment when offensive tackle Andrew Thomas was picked, saying we could see a run of thickness. This is supposed to be a PG show, and he just went all the way up to PG-13, dare I say rated R. And then probably the dumbest thing that Trey Wingo said, when referring to now Detroit Lion Jeff Okudah, he said, and I quote, Jeff Okudah was an academic star at Ohio State, carrying a GPA of 3.0. Jesus. And ESPN, just do the world a favor. Like, honestly, just do the world a favor. I want you to take Trey Wingle off TV. You can keep him on the radio, keep him on Mike and Greeny and Golick, whatever. You can keep him on Mike and Mike. I don't give a fuck. But take that man off TV. That was the biggest embarrassment to the NFL draft since the Ravens took Rashad Perriman in the first round of 2014. Okay? I don't care who you give it to. I don't care if you give it to Sam Ponder. I don't care if you give it to Susie Colbert. Hell, even give it to Stephen A. Smith. At least then I don't have to pretend that there's any credibility to the coverage. But Jesus, oh my God, I needed to get that off my chest. I was holding that in for a long time.
That's all right. We were missing Todd McShay, in draft coverage. I hope he's feeling better. ESPN did announce he has the coronavirus. So prayers up for Todd McShay. Hopefully he'll be back to save us for next year. Andrew, top 10 biggest surprises.
Well, contrary to what Omer had to say, believe it or not, I am not surprised one bit. that Isaiah Simmons fell, and I will tell you why. First off,
Here we go.
when he says that the New York Giants could use a player like Isaiah Simmons. Now, the problem is they took that offensive lineman. Now, there was a reason for that. Johnny, you're a Giants fan. You recall the New York Giants drafted an offensive lineman a couple of years back by the name of Eric Flowers out of a once great football school known as the University of Miami. Do you
He's
know?
actually erect Flowers because he was straight up and everyone went around him.
Exactly. This draft was their chance to finally make up for that mistake they made years ago. I am not one bit surprised. Actually, my biggest surprise did not come in the top 10, but it was what the Atlanta Falcons did, which they actually, I've never seen a team in the NFL draft do this. They actually did something called subtraction through addition. They actually drafted a player and got worse. Could you imagine that? The Falcons drafted a player and got worse. They drafted that cornerback out of Clemson. This kid got abused by Justin Jefferson in the national championship game. And I know what people are going to say, yeah, but that's Justin Jefferson. Think about it this way. How many Justin Jeffersons are there in the NFL? Think about it. Every team has a wide receiver, either the caliber or better than Justin Jefferson. And the Atlanta Falcons used their first pick on this kid. That was my biggest surprise. But
Wait,
my biggest surprise in the top 10?
Wait, the Atlanta Falcons? On
The
who?
Atlanta Falcons. They
On
took a
who?
cornerback out of Clemson.
Okay.
Out of Clemson. But no, my biggest surprise from the top 10 had to have been Tua. And we're not gonna knock his talent. We're not gonna knock anything like that because he's very talented. He's shown when he's on the field. The problem is the man is injury prone. I love me some Tua. I love Alabama football, but more for their defense than their offense. And personally, I just think, they're going to pay a 21-year-old kid, millions of dollars to basically party in Miami for a year. So that did not sit well with me. That was my biggest surprise, was just the fact that they actually took the chance on Tua, knowing that there were other quarterbacks still on the board, such as Jake Fromm and the kid out of Utah State, the one that the Packers
Jordan
drafted.
Love.
Future Hall
Jordan
of
Love.
Famer Jordan Love.
So let's
Yes.
talk about those quarterbacks. The ones that went in the first round: Joe Burrow to Cincinnati, Tua Tagovailoa to Miami, Justin Herbert to the Los Angeles Chargers, all went in the first round, and of course Jordan Love to the Packers at 26. Who's going to be the best of the bunch besides Joe Burrow? Do we remove him from the discussion?
I would say let's remove Joe Burrow from the discussion, considering the fact that he probably went through the worst situation of any of these quarterbacks by far. But
Worse than Miami?
Way worse than Miami. At least in Miami, he doesn't have to start right away. At least in
Is
Miami.
it going to be toxic in Green Bay with the Packers, Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers? You probably can't have a worse teacher.
It's not going to be. Well, Aaron Rodgers actually said that he would, if the Packers ever did draft a quarterback, he said this before, he would take him under his wing, and he has no problem. I have no problem with Aaron Rodgers being a teammate, because you can learn so much by just being around a guy. That's not the issue. The issue in Green Bay is the fact that the relationship between Rodgers and the front office is probably more strained now. That's the real issue there. I don't really foresee Aaron Rodgers being an issue for Jordan Love. But in my opinion, the quarterback that went to the best situation by far is Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert's in a situation where he has a high-quality receiving core. He has Austin Eckler in the backfield, who, in my opinion, is a second coming of Ray Rice. He is somebody who's going to really make an impact early on that team, because they really needed good quarterback play, and they weren't getting it last year with Phillip Rivers. I think that Justin Herbert, he's got the great size, great frame. He was made to play on the West Coast, and he actually might be able to get, some traction and some fans in the seats for that team when they really need it in that big move to the new stadium.
All right, I have an interesting question for you on these quarterbacks. Last one. This crop of first rounders or last year's crop of first rounders? Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, and we'll throw in Drew Lock and Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that Freudian slip of Gardner Minshew.
He gotta have Gardner Minshew. He's the best one in all of them.
You gotta have the uncrowned 2019 Rookie of the Year. But in my opinion, I would definitely take this flock. There's just all these quarterbacks just have a higher ceiling than all those quarterbacks. I mean, like because
even more so than Daniel Jones and Kyler Murray.
Oh yeah. Daniel Jones' ceiling is like Alex Smith's floor. Let's be real about that. No offense to your New York Football Giants, but
y'all are sleeping on the white athletic QBs. You say the same thing about your boy up in Buffalo. But
no. Josh Allen.
Real quick.
Josh Allen is going to win a Super Bowl within the next 5 years.
He's going to prove some people wrong real quick.
He's already proven people wrong. I had that man rated higher coming out of college than Josh Rosen and
Josh
Baker
Allen
Mayfield.
Is if you put Ben Roethlisberger's brain in Cam Newton's body.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say he's more like Joe Flacco with legs. That's what I always tell people.
Yeah, but Joe Flacco wasn't 6'7".
He took that damn
Joe Flacco was
team.
6'6". He was pretty tall.
He took that damn Buffalo team this year with nothing, just a really good defense.
Oh no! What do you mean? John Smokey Brown was 1,000-yard receiver this year, just like he was last year with the Ravens. Don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on that kid. They should have beaten Houston. And now they got Stephon Diggs. Anyway.
They should have beaten Houston.
All right. Boys, let's move on to our next topic of discussion today. ESPN, you railed on them earlier. They might be listening. They might be listening to us, Omer, because they are making a change. Booger McFarland and Joe Tessitore, thank Lord Jesus above, they are gone. Shit canned from ESPN. Who should replace them? Go.
Well, ESPN recently announced that Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland will not be returning for the Monday Night Football crew this year. That means that Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland will no longer be calling Monday Night Football games. Back to you, John.
Who should replace them?
Oh, well.
You moron. I don't know what on earth you thought I said, but float me some names. Who's coming out of the woodwork?
I was just, I was just trying to show that I'm just as good commentator as Booger McFarland.
Yes.
No offense, Boogs. We love you. But no, in all seriousness, ESPN has a real opportunity here, They have a real opportunity to bring credibility and bring the life back to the Monday Night Football crew that they haven't had since the likes of Mike Tirico and John Gruden left. So my plan for ESPN to make Monday Night Football great again, number one, you hire Steve Levy as your play-by-play guy. Now, ESPN has stated because of all the furloughs and cutbacks due to COVID-19, they want to hire from inside because, one, that saves money, and two, it's not a good look if you hire expensive people from outside. And I think that Steve Levy would be the perfect person from the inside to hire because he's got the experience calling football games. He called Monday Night Football opener last year on the doubleheader. He's called a ton of hockey games. He's been a SportsCenter anchor forever, I believe for like the last 20, 30 years almost. I think Steve Levy makes the most sense. He's credible. He's one of the last remaining sports journalists at ESPN that actually has trust with the fans. And lastly, he's not Trey Wingle, so that he really has that going for him. And in the booth next to him, you need someone who's charismatic. You need someone with character. You need someone who knows the ins and outs of football. And who better from ESPN to hire than Rex Ryan? I think Rex Ryan would bring a great dynamic to that group. He has the ability to break down both offensive and defensive plays. He's recently been in the league, so he knows a lot of these coaches. He knows a lot of these players, especially the veterans ones, and the character. It's like, in my opinion, Monday Night Football could do good with a few F-bombs here and there, and I think Rex Ryan is the perfect person to provide that.
I don't think you'll ever see that. That's a lot of wishful thinking.
No, I agree. I really, with the Rex Ryan specifically, I am a defensive-minded person. I love defense, particularly when it comes to football. And I just think that Rex Ryan, he'd bring, an added element to the game. Plus, I would love for ESPN to show that the footage of Rex Ryan a couple years ago when Rex Ryan had that 50-yard dash when the Jets scored the touchdown. I would love for them to replay that over and over and over again every time Rex, the camera's on Rex. I would love the memes on Twitter.
So it seems like Steve Levy is the favorite at the moment. A few other
Amazing.
names floated around include Kurt Warner, Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, Brian Geese. Excuse me. I could
GC.
see also maybe they experiment with one of the from Mike and Mike, Golix, one of the Golix.
Green. You mean Greeny from Get Up?
Well, I don't know if he would do play-by-play for football. He's a play-by-play golf dude. I know he's done some of that. I don't know if he would want to do play-by-play for Monday Night Football, but I could definitely see them going with Golick. Um, you might hate it, but I could see them going for Trey Wingo.
Oh, I would. You would not catch me watching any Monday Night Football games at all.
That
Oh
sounds like a real
no.
ESPN move.
Yeah, that sounds like a real ESPN move. And if you're listening, ESPN, all our listeners will stop watching your channel.
We already have shown we will. We
Yes.
stopped watching Monday Night Football because Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland were terrible.
Yeah, you can keep your Trey Wingos. I will watch my Ravens play on Monday Night Football against the Chiefs on the radio with the radio playing in the background. Shout out to my man Jerry Sandusky from 98 Rock from Baltimore.
We're not shouting out any Jerry Sandusky.
He's a different. I want it to be known he's a different Jerry Sandusky. He's not in jail.
I'm sure he's a plenty nice person, but we will not be endorsing anyone named Jerry Sandusky in this podcast. Thank you.
Fair enough.
Anyway, we'll move on to our next point of review. Sean Doolittle on Twitter today went on a many-tweet rant about the readiness of Major League Baseball to handle restarting during the coronavirus pandemic. He began with, "Bear with me, but it feels like we've zoomed past the most important aspect of any MLB restart plan: health protections for players, families, staff, stadium workers, and the workforce it would require to resume a season. Things I'll be looking for in the proposal." He goes on to talk about the issues that we don't know about the long-term health effects of having coronavirus, a lot of lung, liver, and kidney issues that have been possibly reported but unconfirmed. So we just don't know what having coronavirus can do, and there isn't any plan in place to discuss what would happen if people get it, or if MLB is just planning on letting people assume risk. And there are a lot of unanswered questions about people's health that we have, but it's okay because we know that the Mets and Yankees are going to play in the same division, right? Any thoughts, guys? Drew?
I agree with Sean Doolittle. I mean, what was the whole reason for sports ending to begin with? It was for the well-being of the public. And at the same time, I know everyone they're looking at what's going on in Korea, seeing how baseball started, it's giving people hope. But at the end of the day, dude, we are already in May. We've missed damn near 2 months, or we're coming up on missing 2 months of baseball already. As I mentioned in the last episode, man, these guys, if they haven't been working at it, man, baseball is the kind of sport where any little injury could end your season. Any little elbow tweak, any little shoulder tweak, any little knee thing could end your season, which is why you can't. I agree with Sean Doolittle. He might not have been expressing it in the healthiest of ways, but at the same time, he makes a lot of valid points.
Nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned Twitter rant. Omar, what do you think? Is it too hard to get the baseball season started? Are there too many variables you just can't account for? Is it possible to make a bubble or allow for travel on a larger scale? How is MLB going to be accountable for that?
Well,
And are they accountable for the risk that's assumed by people that work under them? Are they responsible for stadium workers and janitors and all these people we don't typically think of as being part of the baseball apparatus?
Well, to answer your question, I think at the end of the day, they are going to be responsible for everyone who's involved in the entire production and the entire playing of these sports. And it's very difficult. These are things that you have to take into account when you're trying to open up sports. And the truth is, we're not going to know exactly the effects. We're not going to know exactly what the right thing to do is right now. As far as we know right now, we know that there's a bunch of states that have shut off. As far as we know right now, there's a bunch of states that have surplus of test kits, but there's also some that are really reeling and don't have enough. So that's going to be something that the MLB needs to deal with, especially if they really want to get baseball back soon. And right now, I just don't know if that's really what they're thinking right now. I think right now a lot of the owners just want to try to get baseball back in any way they can. I don't know if they're thinking about it that much. I hope they are. I really hope I'm wrong. But I really just don't see a way for baseball or football or any sport to be played right now going into the fall until we know more about the virus itself and it's more contained. So that's where I stand right now. It's also the reason that I don't think we're actually going to have football start on time. Like, I think that's at this point it's just a pipe dream. So we're probably going to have a condensed season at best. And that's probably going to be without fans going into 2021. And I think people should be prepared for that. You should not, if you're a season ticket holder, I think now would be a good time to probably either sell off your tickets to somebody who wants to risk buying them, or try to refund them right now, because it's not looking good as far as sports goes into the fall.
So there are a few teams that have actually rolled over their season ticket plans with the ability to either get a full refund, roll over for the 2021 season, or relinquish the tickets and have the money go to charity. A lot of teams. I don't have specific teams off the top of my head here, but a lot of teams have offered that. In terms of getting started on a season, I think there's one important aspect, especially in baseball, that is not being considered, and that's where are the Toronto Blue Jays going to play? International borders will not be open, and you cannot travel between the U.S. and Canada. Especially in MLB, what happens if all these players went back home? What happens if some players went back to Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, Panama, Colombia,
And
Venezuela,
shifting
and they
gears,
went back
point,
home to their home countries? How are they going to get back?
exactly, and shifting gears even to the NBA, where we
Yeah.
have a lot of international players who actually live, who I'm sure, like, especially now, are probably back home with their families, living abroad. You have to think that for a lot of them, a lot of primetime players, it's going to be hard for them to get back to the States as well. You know, these are things you got to take into account. It's just I think the longer this goes on and the longer we don't have an actual plan, we're not the more likely it is we're not going to have sports this fall.
but we have to take this into account too. Survival of the fittest. That is all.
Thank you, Andrew. Very, very apt. All right. So we have another topic on the docket. Zion Williamson is the subject of scrutiny over the last few days after he is being sued by a media agency consultancy. He of his first
we
season in
cut
the
out
NBA.
we cut out there. Restart. You cut out there for a second.
Okay. On to the next topic. We have Zion Williamson been the subject of scrutiny over the last few days after a lawsuit was filed against him on behalf of a consultancy that he fired over the course of his first NBA season. They've alleged that he received improper benefits from Duke, including housing and cars and cash. And they are suing for damages and lost wages after he apparently breached the contract by firing them. Now, of course, because he just has to appear out of nowhere, Michael Evanetti has inserted himself into this. He is waist deep in a lawsuit against Nike at the moment, as Nike is countersuing him in his lawsuit over harassment and any number of things alleging to Evanetti stealing documents from Nike. But among the documents stolen are apparently proof that Zion did in fact receive the gifts that are being alleged. So now Michael Evanetti is suing somebody is suing Zion and Nike to get his cut. Guys, why on earth are we still playing these games? Why is it illegal for an athlete to benefit off of his skill just because he goes to college? Why are we punishing kids who want to use the system of higher education to provide themselves more exposure? What's the point of all this?
Well,
Why
the
do
issue.
we still have the NCAA? Why do we still let them exist when James Wiseman told the NCAA to fuck off? He's going to be a top 3 pick this year. He didn't need them. LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton went to Australia. They got Jalen Green. This top prospect in next year is doing the NBA G League 1-year transition program that they just created. Why do we let the NCAA exist? I don't understand.
The
Drew?
issue was it's an outdated it's a very outdated system. It was a system that 50 years ago it existed for the integrity of the game and the well-being and the development of others, like the betterment of others, because it used to produce a lot of very, very, very talented players. Think about all the all-time greats. They came through the ranks. The Michael Jordans of the world, the Hakeem Olajuwons, the Patrick Ewings. They went to schools, they got their degrees, they got their education, and then went on to go become all-time greats. And this is just, put an asterisk next to this, which is that none of those players went to Duke, which contributed to their success. We're gonna list that's on a side note though. Now, part of the issue is that the NCAA realizes now that they've messed up because they are very outdated. They realize that the people up top are making all this money and the people who are doing all the work, which are the players, aren't, which is why you see players like the RJ Hamptons, the LaMelo Balls, the Jalen Greens. You see guys like that are just saying, yeah, screw this. If I'm going to go get paid $200K, Darius Baisley did it too. He goes, if I'm going to go get paid $200,000, I'm going to go get paid to play basketball as opposed to selling my image and likeness. People can go and buy my jersey. They could take a picture of me and use it for advertising and promotional purposes, and I'm not saying a dime of it. And what do I get? I get a meal plan, which is going to have food that has me pissing out my ass, and I get a damn single bed that I live in that it's not even for it's not even for 2 people, it's for 1. I have to go and sit through a BS class that I'm not going to be here a year from now. So it's like half these basketball players, they're not going to be there a year from now. They don't want to go and sit through class. Let
Facts.
them. But notice the NCAA now has taken a stand and they've decided to, let kids benefit. And part of that is the result because they realize they messed up. They realize with all these top prospects, particularly the basketball ones, they realize with these kids deciding not to go the college route and go the professional route, right out of high school, they're realizing that now our product is going to take a hit because we took too long. We basically fumbled the bag. We took too long to make changes. And ultimately, it's their fault. They did it to themselves. This Zion thing, dude, this has been going on for years. Charles Barkley said he got paid to go to Auburn. All these players, a lot of these players, they got paid to go to their schools. Corey Maggette got paid to go to college, so and he went to Duke,
Derrick
why he was
Rose.
never right. Corey Maggette got paid to go to Duke, hence why he was never he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. But that's another point. You sell your soul to Duke, your career's over. It ends before it starts. But basically, yeah, that's it. The NCAA did it to themselves, and I don't feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I don't think anyone feels sorry for the NCAA at all, at all. I mean, I think, yeah, I completely agree with both of you guys. Like the NCAA, it's an outdated rule, it's outdated bylaws. They need to get rid of it and just pay the players because they're just. It baffles me that someone who's in college, who's probably struggling to make money at that point in their life, who doesn't really have a guaranteed future that we know of, because injuries happen. The shelf life of a lot of athletes these days is not that long. You need to take that, and the NCAA needs to take that into account when they're thinking about these rules and these bylaws. But purely from as a basketball fan, I'm quite frankly appalled by the actions of Gina Ford and Ford Primetime Marketing. Because while some may call this, her demanding that Zion admit to these allegations, it's just let's be honest here. It might not legally be extortion, but it's as close to extortion as you can get without it being legally extortion. I mean, in June 2019, Zion sued her and her sports agency to get out of his contract, and then she countersued, and you saw that she accused the other sports agency of tampering. She accused Zion breaching contract, and the whole situation just stinks of pettiness and resentment. It has nothing to do with, keeping the sanctity of sports or anything like that. It doesn't have to do with, this is a terrible violation of NCAA. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with just pure pettiness. They're seeing somebody out here succeed, and they're mad that they're not a part of it. That's all it is. And
honestly, I'm noticing that he is not seemingly directly involved in any of this. That this is all his mother and stepfather are involved in this, and they accepted these gifts and took them in. I don't know if they did that on his behalf or if they're using his just pure talent to profit off of and take advantage of him. I don't know. But you hate to see parents
either way, it's
like
wrong.
Ball, people
It's
who
wrong.
just use their kids' likeness and they use their kids' talent and their soapbox to just abuse their image and take advantage to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And
You gotta be careful.
And dude, part of the issue that many people are not realizing, particularly when it comes to college basketball, when you have a high school All-American, now the term All-American, on a wide scale, think about the people who have held that prestigious title. Kevin Durant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Chris Paul. These are guys that when they went pro, they did great things. Now, the colleges are not doing right by the players as players by not maximizing their potential as basketball players. I can name of a player in particular. I always bring this up. I can name one player in particular. This is turning into the Bash Duke channel, by the way. Nolan Smith was rated higher than Derrick Rose coming out of high school. That meant that Nolan Smith, according to every draft service, every single scouting service, was more talented than Derrick Rose. Now, talent is something that, every player has it. When you're on that level, they all have talent. Some might have more, some might have less. The point of the matter is, you saw what happened to Derrick Rose, youngest MVP ever before the injuries. Nolan Smith, did he even have an NBA career? We don't know. That's the result of guys going to college and the college not doing right by these players to help them maximize their own potential as athletes. That is all.
All right. On that note, we hope you enjoyed this second podcast of Real Take Sports Talk. I'm your host, Johnny G. That is Omer.
Yo.
Bye, Omer. And that's Andrew. Say bye, Andrew.
Bye, Andrew.
We're here to give the people what they want every week. Come on back. See you next week.